What is accessibility? Introduction to why we need access and application of Section 508 for web designers. Faye Newsham, PTC 606, Spring 2012. How many people have disabilities? Overall, 37.1 million adults aged 18 years and over experienced some hearing difficulty without a hearing aid in 2010. 21.5 million adults have vision trouble. 16.7 million adults were unable to walk a quarter mile. There were 35.8 million adults with other physical functioning difficulties. Over 7 million people in the United States can't hear in a crowd without some kind of assistance. 5 million U.S. adults have trouble with vision impacting everyday life. Dysgraphia is a general term for the many conditions that can make it difficult to write or use a mouse. It is unknown how many people suffer from conditions that affect their use of the web. If we look at everyone who has any kind of trouble using the web, anywhere from 100 to 500 out of every 1,000 people in the United States today are affected. Over half of these are under 65. According to the Centers for Disease Control, in 2009, there were approximately 37 million people who are deaf or hard of hearing in the United States. Only about 600,000 of those 37 million people communicated through American Sign Language. Several websites designed for the deaf feature sign language translated videos. Many individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing, especially late deafened adults and those who lost hearing after learning speech, read lips or rely on the written word and can't use ASL at all. There are no one-size-fits-all solutions. Now that we see that a huge population of people are affected by disabilities, how do these affect how a person uses the web? Can we make a difference without creating ugly pages? This is about the most simple web page you will ever see. Think about how difficult it could be to use. This page may be viewed through a screen reader, a tool that reads the content of the page to the user. But think about how you can tab through the navigation or skip it. Can you put in keywords and search for a page? Can you click a link to visit another page? How hard are these tasks without your eyes? There are several kinds of color blindness. Red-green is just the best known. The amount of contrast between these colors close to each other can be even harder to determine and make a website hard to use. In the website example above, we're using a black and white image to simulate how similar red and green are to each other. But what an individual sees depends on the disability they have. There are tools to help you see what these do and simulate so that you can avoid bad color combinations. Imagine you can't use a mouse at all. How do you get from one button to another on a website? How do you click something without a mouse? Imagine hovering over the tiny icon above and trying to click it if you have one of these conditions. A screen reader reads the alt tag, the description, of an image. It's important for every user as well as for disabled users. This lets the user know that the picture has a purpose and an action is available. We've looked at how many people need help and what some of the problem areas are. In order to help people, laws have been enacted to level the playing field for those people. The ADA prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in employment, state and local government, public accommodations, commercial facilities, transportation, and telecommunications. It also applies to the United States Congress. For the web and websites, each of these areas can come into effect based on who owns the website and what its purpose is. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act, as amended by the Workforce Investment Act of 1998, set out to ensure that users of federal websites, including employees and contractors, have access to the same level of information irrespective of any disability. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act is designed to protect the rights of individuals with disabilities in programs and activities that receive financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Education. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act is a statute which funds special education programs. Each state educational agency is responsible for administering IDEA within the state and distributing the funds for special education programs. Section 508, 504, and the ADA are anti-discrimination laws and do not provide any type of funding. There are lots of standards describing what is necessary or suggested to make websites usable to people with disabilities. Most of these are interrelated with few major differences. Many nations are adopting Level 2 or 3 WCAG. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines were developed by the Web Accessibility Initiative, a project of the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C. Advocacy groups are working to ensure every website everywhere meets or exceeds one or more of these standards. If the laws aren't in place yet, you can bet someone somewhere is working to get one in place. Section 508 is a set of standards based partially on the WCAG and specifically to the U.S. federal government, but is frequently adopted by states, state institutions such as universities, and grant recipients, organizations, or projects receiving federal money. What you see here are the main headings of the standards described in Section 508. What you will not get here is how to accomplish these. Often, the best you will get are specific things not to do. So what can you do? We have seen the standards that are attempting to even the playing field for all users. It is up to each of us to help. There are simple things you can do to make websites easier for all users. Really, 90% of all accessible design is just good, usable web design. Very little applies to only one specific disability or user group. Those that do are typically easy to apply and have little to no effect on final visual designs. Skip navigation refers to the ability to use one key to skip from the navigation to the main content. Imagine having to listen to every item in a menu every time you get to a page, particularly if you're using a screen reader such as JAWS. Tab order is the order you view and access elements using the tab key to navigate, a technique often used by blind users or users with impaired motor skills. An alt tag is a chunk of text that describes an image. A good alt tag describes why the image is important on the page. It may be a picture of a bus, but if you need to click it to perform an action, the good alt tag will tell you about the action, not the image. Contrast refers to the amount of difference between the background and text on an entire web page, button, or navigation element. Remember the examples of colorblind issues? What if a green background with red text is shown to someone with this condition? They may see a black page with nothing on it. There are tools on the web to help you test and determine if your contrast is high enough for most users. Color indicates that you should not use color as the only way to provide information. You can say click the red button or click the red button marked no, which will ultimately be more useful. Content here refers to the amount, complexity, and terminology used on a website that is both appropriate for the audience and usable by the greatest number of individuals. Just like in all writing exercises, knowing your audience is very important. People online do not read, they skim, search, and scan content. Short words, short phrases, and short paragraphs are key to getting the right content to the right people. It is important to verify accessibility with checklists, tools, and user tests, but in a pinch these items are key. In addition, be aware of opening a new window without warning. An alt tag or alt title tag can help. Creating forms without labels, or using color without good contrast or as the only indicator. How do you make it accessible? Check with others who have done it before for advice and guidance. Read the materials provided in the many websites dedicated to these subjects. Test with users and/or tools that disabled people use. In the image here, you can see a website for the makers of JAWS, the screen reading tool most commonly used by blind individuals. The website does not assume that you are blind or need visual assistance, but it provides a variety of choices on how you view the site. Standards and best practices are always evolving, so don't forget, once you've got an accessible website, check back and make sure new standards or practices haven't passed you by. Even if you're just posting a document, there are important things you need to know. Logical reading order is the way a screen reader reads a document. It's the way you read a document. You can set up a visually attractive document using columns or tables that is entirely scrambled to a screen reader. Using simple headings with styles, in Microsoft Word for example, sets up both a visual and technical order. You know when you come to a first level heading or a second level heading. This lets you know the level of importance and hierarchy of the content. Reading order and headings help a screen reader and you know how important information is and where it lives in the document. So how can you test for this? A quick method is to copy content from your document to a simple tool like Notepad and see if you can still read it. Did the columns get scrambled? Are headings lost in the content? Did page numbers end up in the middle of paragraphs? There are serious advantages and serious disadvantages to using PDFs for documents. A document can be converted from Word to PDF using a plugin in Microsoft Word, from a scanner as an image, or from a scanner as text. Only the first one is highly reliable. It is important for a screen reader to be able to access the text to read it to the user. PDF was originally designed to be a graphical-only format. Later, tools were added to allow the user to select text from the document, and later still to allow a screen reader to read it. Converting from the native format to PDF using a plugin is the most accurate. Changing a graphical PDF to a text PDF is hard, inaccurate, and often very manual. Test your document as described in the previous slide, and if it makes sense, there are few images, the document is likely okay. You may just need to add a few alt tags or image captions. If you're starting from an old graphical PDF, it is often easier to retype the document entirely than to attempt to fix the many problems. PowerPoint and outlines are key. Open PowerPoint and check out this presentation. Click the Outline tab. You should see the slide number, title, and content of each slide available to you. This is the content the screen reader reads. Anything you can't see in the outline is skipped. If an image or content is not showing, it isn't accessible. When in doubt, include both the native document and a PDF. For more information, you can check out these and many other websites. And don't forget about our resources from the CDC. And thank you very much. Good luck and good designing.